For these long-lost lovers, first impressions count.
She had a very infectious smile. It drew a lot of people in.
He knew what he wanted, and he would always strive for more.
But beyond the manicured lawn lies something sinister.
Derek! Hey, what are you doing? He threw all his clothes in there and just set it on fire.
Dad, don't! Stop it!
Every person had to be standing where the X was. Everyone had to say the lines in the script.
Give me the money.
It's a shocking tale of good cop, bad cop that can only end with a broken heart.
We're done.
He had been shot in the chest.
Now I see the motive, now I see the purpose.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. Derek Yancey is back in his hometown of Decatur, Georgia, after years on the road with his band.
You could look at old photos of Derek and you would see him in the ruffled shirt, big hair, jerry curl, and then glitter. He loved Prince. That was his idol.
Derek was a very vibrant person, very friendly person, very sociable person, a guy who would help anybody out.
28-year-old Derek is finally ready to settle down.
Thank you.
And maybe pick up right where he left off.
Derek Yancey.
With old flame Linda Thomas.
Linda.
Linda, she was a very, very pretty lady. She had a very infectious smile, and it's kind of what drew a lot of people in.
Wow.
What's it been, like 5 years?
5 years at least.
They did in high school. They went to the prom together.
You're a cop.
Sheriff's deputy.
At one point, his band was in Japan, and he wanted Linda to come over, but she did not go.
So when they just separated and she just went on to college.
And you're in Decatur for good?
Mm-hmm. No more music.
That's too bad.
No, not really. Not really.
Derek and Linda have something most former high school sweethearts do not. A second chance.
So I got something to show you. It's kind of embarrassing, but...
Oh my God, the prom. I haven't seen that photo in years.
I see it every day.
She had these eyes that would scare you. Like, you felt like she was up to something because her eyes were so big, so blunt and bold and brown. She just looked like one of those girls next door, just nice, pretty, and open, like, just gorgeous.
She was a very attractive woman. He loved her. He just found the girl of his dreams, I think.
Linda, who's a department store counter girl, just loves a man in uniform.
He was a sheriff's deputy, he was in law enforcement, and that definitely fit his personality because he was very methodical and very meticulous. She liked that order. She wanted order in her life, and I think that fit her personality as well.
She just really enjoyed the conversations that she had with him, and he was a nice guy.
Their first date is the first of many.
Why did I ever let you go?
We all make mistakes.
They were very loving, very affectionate. You absolutely could tell that he adored her.
In 1989, Derek and Linda get married. And not just because they're madly in love.
And that time in the family, you have a baby, you stay together. That's it.
Linda was really over the moon with her son.
So, so beautiful.
She really loved children.
Soon after, Derek's assigned to the DeKalb County Courthouse as a bailiff.
He was responsible for making sure the courtrooms were safe, transporting inmates back and forth to court.
He never was assigned to the streets.
How y'all doing?
He was always pretty much in a real nice, safe position. So I think she was okay with that.
And now that he's a dad,
Buen trabajo. Continúa así.
he's determined to be the best provider he can be. So he starts picking up extra work on the side.
He would do the yard work, he would do the renovations.
He was a hell of a yard guy. Everything was out of a magazine. He was just that good.
He knew what he wanted, and he would always strive for more. She loved that he was a good provider. She was comfortable. They didn't want for anything.
He wasn't lazy. He was a go-getter.
She knew what she wanted, and she would go after it. So I think that the two together just, made a perfect match.
Hey, you.
And 2 years after the birth of baby Sean, Linda has some news to share.
No. Really?
The couple announces the upcoming birth with great excitement. But complications ensue.
The doctors found out the baby was in distress, so they said, we got to get him out and we got to go into surgery right now. But by the time they got to him, the umbilical cord has suffocated him. So that was it.
She was really devastated. It really did affect her for a long time. I think it affected both of them.
Making Linda even more protective of her now 5-year-old son.
Sean, baby, get down from there. You're up too high.
Damn, girl. Let him be.
He's gonna break his neck, and you want me to let him be?
Kids cry, they fall, they get back up. Keep it up, son, you got this.
If Derek would come harder at him about something, she'd be the pillow to cushion the fall. Her oldest was her baby. That was the love of her life.
It's not good for his self-esteem.
Why don't you just go on home then?
It's not their only bone of contention.
Fine.
He mostly was like the workaholic, trying to provide. So all of the other little functions, pretty much Linda handled. She began to get a little bit more irritated because, she was a full-time employee and a full-time mom as well.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell are worried about tension creeping into the relationship so early on.
Oftentimes, a man will want his son to behave like a man and will be afraid that if the mother's coddling them too much or nurturing them too much, that they won't grow up in that sort of manly way that they had hoped.
It would not be that unusual for her to have gotten a little bit more protective because she's just experienced the loss of a child, and to be more afraid after that she could experience that again would be something that would be understandable to me.
It does concern me because typically when there are extreme parenting styles, it can cause conflict with the couple. These two are going to disagree, that they're not going to be on the same page, and then that will ultimately impact not just their relationship, but Sean as well.
6 years into their marriage, Derek hears about a job that just might be perfect for Linda and help ease tension around the house.
The sheriff's office was putting out announcements for, new job openings, and he told her she should apply, and she did.
She did it with the concept that she could help people, she could make a difference.
Within months, she's working as a detention officer at the DeKalb County Jail.
She escorted inmates to their cells, and she would watch over them or whatever. And the funny thing, all of her inmates loved her.
She had one of those dispositions that people just gravitated to her. It was just like we were meant to be friends from the moment we met in jail school.
The new job may bring more money to the family, but Linda finds she's also paying a price.
Linda's hours were something like 3 to 11 or something crazy like that.
How's Sean?
Sleeping like an angel. Hey, come to bed.
In a minute.
For Linda, a fatter paycheck is no substitute for the hours she's missing with Sean. And there's even less time for Derek.
Derek was jealous of Linda's relationship with her son.
A jealousy that will escalate into something dangerous.
He always flashing that money, but he can't hold on to it.
Stop it!
They got into a physical fight.
Derek and Linda Yancey's marriage is challenged when their second son arrives stillborn. And they have very different parenting approaches when it comes to their firstborn, Sean. But they do agree on giving him the best they can afford.
It's perfect.
This house was probably a little bit above their means, but it was a very nice house, and they wanted that for their family.
That yard needs work, though.
Come on, Derek, enjoy the moment.
Look at it. All right.
He would go and he would hire inexpensive day labor to come and do tasks that he would oversee.
Buen trabajo, chicos. Paint, cut grass, move furniture, all the stuff that we don't want to do. Those people would do it.
His yard looked like a putting green. It was perfect. I mean, literally perfect.
They were very proud of their home. They were successful in their careers. Typical American dream.
To further that dream, Derek takes on another part-time gig as a neighborhood watchman.
He had his patrol car driving around so everyone knew, hey, that's kind of our neighborhood cop.
This guy's in law enforcement. You know, he's a good guy, he's a good neighbor. You'd be like, wow, I'm glad to live by this guy.
Derek also expands his budding real estate empire.
Derek would buy other homes to rent them to try to get equity, make money.
Money that he likes to throw around.
Linda would say, he always flashing that money, but he can't hold on to it.
Hey, my man, you got change for a dollar?
It wasn't out of the ordinary for him to pull out $1,500 out of his pocket.
You know, hey, Derek, can I borrow $1? He had to pull out $1,500 to find the dollar to give you.
Thanks, bro.
Because you had to see that he had that in his pocket.
Linda did not have the personality of someone who was showboaty. She absolutely hated that.
Despite their differences, Derek and Linda are delighted when their new son, Carl, arrives.
Linda was so nurturing to her children, you know, just real affectionate. Just the mom, you know, that you would just love to have in your life. And she absolutely adored her boys. What the eldest was to Linda, the youngest was for Derek. Derek didn't treat him as harshly as he did the eldest son. This was like a fresh start.
But the more Derek takes to Carl, the harder he is on Sean.
Sean, C in math, D in Spanish. Come on, kid, you're a Yancey.
Oh, that's just awesome, Derek. Super helpful.
What, you want to see your son fail?
He ain't failing, he's trying.
Trying is all that counts, is that it? I'll tell you what, you keep going soft on him. See how things turn out.
Derek would be really tough on him, and his mom would always say, you know, that's not what he needs.
There's yard work to do, Derek.
Right.
It seemed kind of like it was those two against him. Why are you always kind of backing him instead of being more stern on him about certain things?
Hey, look, you gotta be in music class.
It's literally almost as if Linda has sort of claimed child number one. Sean is her kid, she's nurturing that child.
They sort of became kind of an alliance and grew very close together, very attached to one another. And as that happened, Derek sort of moved over here.
And so the baby comes along and Derek decides, this one is mine.
And in a way, that's sort of understandable to me because an infant is easier to love than a teenager. An infant hasn't rebelled yet.
And so he begins to behave in a way where he puts more attention and focus on that child, which I think ultimately leads to Sean acting out.
The fights stay behind closed doors. at least for now.
Piece of crap.
You wouldn't know what was going on because they had a unified front of how they act in front of us.
Everything was neat and manicured from the outside of the house, and it wasn't on the inside.
By the time Sean is 17, the Yanceys' growing tensions are about to burst.
It started with Derek hearing the music his son was playing.
I told him to keep it down with that gangster crap.
Derek loved jazz, he loved R&B, he loved Motown.
It was rap music.
You ever listen to that garbage? I mean, really listen.
It was vulgar, it was disrespectful to him, to his profession.
Sean, honey, please just turn it down.
Why don't the jazz man just come and tell me himself?
Turn it off now.
I don't believe that he was trying to rebel against his dad. I believe he had just had enough.
He wanted to do his own thing, and it wasn't on the path that what Derek wanted.
It was almost like Derek was putting on a sitcom, and every person had to be standing where the X was. Everyone had to be dressed by wardrobe. Everyone had to say the lines in the script.
It's like that.
Derek!
Hey, what are you doing?
Derek, stop it!
Taking out the trash.
Derek went into a rage.
He took his son's clothes and just set it on fire.
Please, Dad, don't!
Derek lost it.
Derek, stop it!
And she interceded, but she couldn't stop it all.
Derek! This is your son!
It was almost like a shark feeding frenzy. It just didn't stop. Derek just kept going.
And now there's blood in the water.
It's late.
Overtime.
They said Linda is messing around on me.
There's gonna be repercussions.
Derek Yancey and his 17-year-old son have literally come to blows, leaving Derek's wife, Linda, torn between her husband and her kid.
Linda tried to be the peacemaker for the family.
Derek! Derek! This is your son! Stop it!
She got very concerned that their safety might be at issue. And she's very aware if I call 911, there's gonna be repercussions.
But it's a risk Linda is willing to take.
911, what's your emergency?
No, my husband and my son are in a terrible fight.
It was so out of control that Linda took that extra step that she would never take.
Yeah, please, come right away.
She had to bring someone in to protect her children.
As the adult, Derek is arrested and charged.
My son was listening to music in his room, and he had the volume really loud, but then my husband,
So he pushed me back, and then I was down on the ground.
The oldest son got the best of Derek, and Derek received a black eye as a result of that altercation.
And the consequences for Derek could be serious.
When you give someone a conviction, you close doors in their life. Derek might not be able to be a deputy sheriff, and it would affect the family. The case went through the system. It's a family incident. The son didn't want to prosecute. The wife did not want to prosecute.
The charges are dropped, and Derek is released.
Thanks, man. He was hurt. I don't even know how you even go back to work, you know, telling your co-workers that, you know, you got beat up by your son. It's embarrassing.
Derek cared deeply about what his coworkers and the public thought about his marriage and his life.
Derek wants to make nice, but for Linda, the charade is over.
Your auntie's gonna take good care of you.
I know it.
Sean has had enough too.
He wound up going to stay with one of the sisters.
The family was like, he gotta get out the house. What if it gets to the point where they get in another fight and something worse happens?
I think it's for the best.
You're a real jerk, you know that?
She didn't know what she was gonna do, and she didn't know how she was gonna fix this relationship.
Derek moved out of their bedroom down into the basement, and Linda did not visit that basement. They were married, but they wasn't husband and wife at that point.
The absence of intimacy leads Derek to make the most obvious assumption, that Linda has found another man.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
What's going on?
He said Linda is messing around on me.
She's seeing somebody else. There's no other explanation.
I said, wow. I said, how do you know? He said, I know. I have to believe the guy that, hey, look, something's not right.
It's late.
Overtime.
Right.
Derek sets out to prove he's right.
Hello? No. And don't call back.
Is that for me?
Nah, baby.
Yeah.
Hi, Derek, it's Yolanda. Is Linda home?
He would answer the phone, and he would say, don't call my house no more, and he would just hang up the phone.
He felt like her family, her co-workers was influencing her on the marriage, on the kids.
Linda lived under Derek's thumb, and she had no latitude.
He was trying to isolate her.
Linda denies having met anyone, and she isn't going to put up with Derek's New World Order for long.
What's wrong?
Yolanda says she tried reaching me all weekend.
So?
So? She said you kept hanging up on her.
Must be something wrong with the phone line.
You want me to make it plain for you?
Yeah. Make it nice and simple.
And at some point, Linda realized this isn't normal. This isn't right. It's never gonna get any better.
You and me, we're done.
Hey. Hey! Let's sit down and talk about this.
I'm done with talking.
What does that mean, huh?
When a relationship is healthy, you sit down with your partner, you talk it out, you tell them you're worried. What his behavior says to me is he is trying to gain control and work it out in a really inappropriate way.
And that's actually very common behavior for somebody who starts to get scared, starts to get anxious about the fact that they are losing the person.
He believes that he will keep her closer by behaving that way, even though ultimately he's probably going to push her away.
And if they don't do something fast, I think that it is going to result in a break of some kind.
Linda considers her options, but the idea of divorce is daunting.
There haven't been any divorces in our family, so she probably didn't want to rock the boat, you know? I think then that softness in her started to harden. Her heart started to harden.
She wasn't going to be pushed over.
But divorce isn't the only way to end a marriage.
Derek?
It was a family in disarray.
They found the kid with a gun in his hand.
After 19 years of marriage, Linda Yancey has had enough and wants her husband Derek out of her life for good. She just needs to decide how best to get rid of him. With her children away, Linda has plenty of time to think.
The eldest boy, he was upstairs at my sister's house. And the baby boy, she took him down to spend the weekend with his grandmother.
The house is quiet without the kids.
You can listen to your jazz music in peace, right?
Meanwhile, for Derek, it's business as usual.
Hola. You.
He hired this day laborer, Marcial Cax-Pulak, at a local business to help with the yard. Marcial was new to the country from Guatemala and was trying to get work.
It's the last job he'll ever take.
We've got a code 246, repeat, code 246 at 453 Elmwood Lane.
Just a few hours later, police are called to the Yancey home. Gunshots have been reported.
I was told before I got there that I would see his yard before I saw anybody else's. And by that description, I knew exactly where it was. The outside of the house was immaculate. When you walked inside, the chaos that was reality was evident. We walked in about a centimeter at a time, looking around to make sure we didn't touch anything or move anything. We noticed the shell casings, noticed the grass clippings from the door.
They find yard worker Marcial Cax-Pulak first.
He had been shot one time in the chest.
They found the kid with a gun in his hand. We worked our way around. We noticed where Linda was. Linda had been shot.
Linda's body was maybe 6 or 7 feet from Marcial's. She was shot once in the chest and then once behind her right ear.
The two deaths are as brutal as they are perplexing. But there is a witness.
Derek was on the living room couch crying.
Derek's own bring their colleague to the station.
Linda calls me to the house. She said she got boxes to move.
He called Marcel in to help him move some stuff.
My employee, Marcial, is helping me. And that's when Linda come downstairs and asked me for money.
Derek, I need some money.
He reached in his pocket and pulls out $2,000 to give Linda.
Give me the money.
Give me the money. Give me the money.
Linda just froze. And he shot her. Just like that. Luckily, I had my service weapon on. I think it caught him off guard. Linda was hurt real bad. The neck, the chest. Not much I could do except call for help.
My wife's been shot. She's unconscious. I need your help.
The 911 dispatcher told me how to do CPR, but it was too late.
By the time first responders arrive, Linda is dead, and the life Derek knew is over. Linda's friends and family are devastated.
I was in disbelief when I'm sitting there on TV and their house, that beautiful house with the beautiful grass, with the nice cars, and a whole bunch of police officers. And that's when I felt like really numb.
But I was absolutely devastated. Absolutely devastated. Just pure sorrow.
Linda's funeral takes place 5 days later.
Derek was crying, the kids were crying. It's just very, very sad. It was a sad day. You know, the man had lost his wife. The youngest kid had lost his mom. The oldest kid was stuck with a dad that he really didn't care for. So it was, you know, it was just unbelievable. It was a family in disarray.
As bad as tragedies are, they can create opportunities for mending relationships. It is possible that this could be an opportunity for them to come together over their grief about Linda.
I think that everything we see Derek do from this point on should be about what is best for the children. How can I best console these kids? How can I best hold these kids together and help them move forward as functionally as possible?
Meantime, there are some disturbing inconsistencies emerging in the investigation. When preliminary digging reveals that the gun found in Martial's hand is registered to Derek, police begin to question his story.
Derek had several guns that he kind of stored around the house. One was that .38 revolver, which supposedly was in the kitchen on top of the refrigerator.
Want some mustard on that?
Derek says he must have taken my weapon. This young man was 5'2", 112. He was almost a kid, a teenager, and he was a kid.
I don't think there's any way Martial could have even seen a gun on top of the fridge in the kitchen due to his height.
That's not the only problem.
Give me the money.
Derek said in his statement, he said, "Give me the money." Very clear, very adamant. This kid, he came from a village in the mountains of Guatemala, and he didn't know a single word of English.
Linda's wounds also tell a different tale.
The gun was actually pushed into her chest.
The wound's different on a press contact.
You're gonna have some burn marks because the gun actually gets so hot that it will leave marks on the skin.
But according to Derek, Martial was several feet from Linda when he shot her.
When officers got there, Derek's .38 was in the left hand of the day laborer.
His friends all say that he was right-handed, so why the gun would be by his left hand if he's right-handed?
Well, right away, problem, one after another.
My wife's been shot.
There's even a problem with the 911 call.
She's unconscious. I need your help.
Derek, of course, had learned how to do first aid and CPR in the academy as a law enforcement officer. There was no question that he knew how to do CPR. There was no evidence whatsoever that a single chest compression had been done on Linda. The way the bullet had gone into her heart, she was full of blood. So if there was a single compression of CPR to her, Derek would have had blood all over him. He would have been drenched in blood.
There was no blood.
Armed with these suspicions, authorities dig even deeper.
We learned that Derek and Linda had tremendous debt. from both their property as well as some rental properties that they had.
He was stretched beyond anything I thought was possible.
And that's when they hit the mother lode.
Derek had taken a life insurance policy out on Linda for $700,000.
A policy Linda knew nothing about.
You know, if it would have been a 50 or 100 or maybe 200, I wouldn't have thought a thing about it. 700 was just over the top. Okay, now I see the motive, now I see the purpose.
Derek Yancey is indicted for double murder and promptly arrested.
In September, he had a bond hearing, and they put his mother's house up for the bond.
Authorities assume Derek is not a flight risk.
Derek was on house arrest. He had to live with his mother. He had an ankle monitor.
But they're wrong.
The monitoring company found that that ankle monitor had been snipped. It had been cut off. It was left at the mother's home, and Derek was nowhere to be found.
The hunt for the fugitive sheriff's deputy is on.
He kind of just vanished at that point.
You can hear breathing. Hello? It was the creepiest thing I ever heard.
After being indicted for the murders of his wife Linda and day laborer Martial Caxpuluk, Sheriff's Deputy Derek Yancey breaks free of his ankle monitor and goes on the lam.
I get a phone call and say, hey, we're having a problem with Derek's ankle monitor. Describe problem. Well, we found it in his living room. And we can't find him. And the problem is they waited until Monday morning to report that, and it had happened like more than 24 hours before that.
The delay in reporting the cut ankle bracelet to police gives Derek a head start. Authorities begin by checking the Yancey family home, but they're too late.
He got all their charge cards and went and took the maximum cash he could get off of each card. And I think that's what he ran with.
Surveillance video from the bus station in downtown Atlanta reveals Derek Yancey wearing a black jacket approaching the ticket counter.
There was a tip that came in that Derek was spotted at a Greyhound bus station. He was boarding a bus for Los Angeles.
Even though a law enforcement officer is standing nearby, Yancey boards the bus undetected.
We started looking for him. We got the U.S. Marshal's office involved. We tracked him out west and then lost him.
There was no signs that Derek ever got off that bus in Los Angeles. He kind of just vanished at that point.
Derek's in law enforcement. He know how the sheriff department works. He know what they look for, what they don't look for. So this guy's an expert in that.
With Derek on the run, his children go months without hearing from their father. Or so it seems.
We would get a phone call. I mean, nobody would say anything, but you could hear breathing. It was the creepiest thing I ever heard.
Hello?
It was always around the time that the youngest son would get back from school, because now he's living with my parents. So, like, I wonder if he's timed this to talk to his son.
Desperate for a lead, authorities turn to the only person who might know where Derek is. His mother, who put up her house as collateral on Derek's bond.
Morning, ma'am.
If anybody knows where he is, the family knows.
Mrs. Yancey, I'm gonna need your help.
We talked to him. Do you know where he's at? They haven't heard from him, nothing.
But Atlanta's finest don't believe that's true.
You like your house, Mrs. Yancey?
Sure, I guess.
I bet Derek would want it to go to his kids when you pass. Instead of to the state.
And I'll tell you, the last thing I wanted to do was take his mama's house. But we started the proceedings to take mama's house.
The pressure works, and the police get the lead they're looking for.
I don't know where he's at, but I believe he did call in a couple of times.
Thank you, Mrs. Yancey. We'll be checking your phone records.
U.S. Marshals tracked the phone down to a small town in Belize that didn't have paved roads.
He worked his way out of the country and fled through Mexico and made his way down to Belize. And that's where he finally ended up.
And so we launched a crew down there.
Derek was found sitting at a bar, drinking a beer. "Are you Derek Yancey?" And he said yes. He knew at that point that he was caught.
I was very, very relieved when they were able to capture him and bring him back.
Hola.
Derek pleads innocence as detectives piece together what they believe happened on the day Linda and Marcial were killed.
You. We picked up this guy of this caliber because he was so short. If something happened, he had to tussle with him. They figured that he can overman the guy.
Marcial was cutting the grass. Derek lured Linda to the basement.
Linda, come down.
Derek? 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 Derek, what are you doing? Derek, no!
Then comes the anger shot. He jams the pistol into her chest, fires one more time, and blows her heart in half. We could tell that because the projectile was directly under her body in that case.
I would imagine Marcial probably didn't hear the shots simply because of
Marcial!
the noise from the lawnmower.
Marcial! Bene, bene. Necesito tu ayuda and keep that lawnmower running. Come on.
Like he was just somebody he's gonna use as a prop.
Entra ahí.
When you think about the scene, Derek planned this amazing. He thought of everything, thinking it was airtight.
Derek had placed that gun in the day laborer's left hand to kind of stage the robbery.
A critical mistake on Derek's part.
If Derek had done his homework and had watched the day laborer, it would have been obvious whether he was right or left-handed.
It's late.
Overtime.
Police also find no evidence whatsoever that Linda was carrying on an affair.
Right.
Talking to friends and looking through everything, that's not Linda's personality.
Instead, her friends believe she was working overtime to save enough money for an eventual divorce.
Linda had indicated on more than one occasion that I'm going to leave him in this house by himself. He loves it. Let him stay here.
When Derek goes to trial, more than 2 years after his wife's death, he pleads not guilty to 2 counts of murder.
Between the CPR that never happened, between him being right-handed, the gun in his left, boom, 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 we killed his story. And we proved that everything he said was a lie. If you're keeping score, it's 100-0.
Derek was sentenced to 2 life sentences. He's not eligible for parole until he's 110 years old. So he's not getting out. His co-workers, his friends, men who had worked with him and Linda for years, ultimately had to take him into custody when that guilty verdict came down.
It took me a long time to say, well, you know, he's guilty, you just gotta live with it, and stop being in denial. So, that's where I'm at. I'm at peace with it.
When I look at the overall picture of this situation, what I see is a person, Derek, who slowly deteriorated more and more over time. What we begin to see is a pattern where a person is literally deteriorating to the point that they become a violent killer of 2 people.
As if it weren't depraved enough for Derek to have murdered his wife and not to have cared about the effect of that on the 2 children, the way in which he treats Marcial really shows us, more than anything else, the complete moral deprivation at the core of somebody as sociopathic as Derek.
Linda's friends and family aren't the only ones who lost a loved one on June 9th, 2008.
He came to the United States to help support his family. You know, he made that journey, and he's here finally to try to work and make a better life. And he was killed not even for a reason. Nothing he did.
You know, we felt their pain as well. We didn't want Marcial's memory to get lost.
As for Linda, few are likely to forget her.
She was love in human form, and you felt it.
I miss just her friendship. I miss seeing her face. I miss her laugh. I just miss her kindness, just her presence.
The biggest tragedy is that those 2 sons lost their mom and their dad.
They didn't need to have a fancy house. They didn't need to have nice cars. They needed their mother, and he took that from them.